William James had never been much use with his hands. He was a clumsy man, the sort who dropped his tea mug twice a week, or stumbled over the overhead projector at the front of a classroom. But when it came to the night sky, there was no one alive with more passion. In 1977, William was 66 years old, a retired astrophysicist who still lectured at the local college simply for the joy of it. His evenings were spent in the garden of his drafty house on the edge of town, peering through a long brass telescope mounted on a wobbling tripod. He had never married. His students, those who remembered him, often joked that the only thing William was truly wed to was the stars. That summer, something unusual happened. William began detecting a strange pulse on the battered receiver connected to his telescope and radio rig. Not static, not interference, a sound more like a murmur, or, as he would later call it, a whisper. At first, he assumed it was a glitch, but the signal returned the following night, and the night after that, each time sharper, clearer, as though whoever or whatever was transmitting had realized they'd been heard. One Thursday evening in the back room of the White Hart pub, William laid out his findings to the local astronomy society. The group were more accustomed to pointing out constellations between pints than discussing alien contact. They stared uneasily into their beers, while William fiddled nervously with graphs and printouts. "You see," William said, pushing his spectacles up his nose, "the pattern isn't random. It repeats here, here, and here." He tapped the page excitedly. "A sequence of prime numbers. That's deliberate. It must be." Alan Porter, a retired postman with a telescope that barely worked, squinted at the papers. "Could be some Yank satellite," he muttered. "They're always bouncing signals about. You'll have us believing in little green men next." "It isn't a satellite," William replied firmly. "This signal is coming from well beyond our solar system." The room fell silent. Only the distant rattle of darts from the public bar next door broke the tension. Margaret Wilson, the society's secretary and the only member who had once worked in a university laboratory, leaned forward. "If you're right, William, this isn't something we keep to ourselves. You must share it with the authorities, with someone who can verify it." William blinked. "Are you suggesting I ring the government?" Margaret nodded slowly. "Yes, if you don't, someone else will, and the world will want to know." In the weeks that followed, the whisper grew stronger. The hiss of static became tones. The tones became words. William sat hunched over his desk night after night, surrounded by scattered notebooks and cups of cold tea, painstakingly deciphering the messages. The first clear sentence arrived at 2 a.m. "We heard your voice first." William froze. His pencil slipped from his fingers. The message continued in broken bursts. "We are travelers, long away, from Kepler 442b. We reply to the call." Hands trembling, William adjusted the dials and leaned toward the microphone. "This is William James from Earth. Who are you?" There was a pause that seemed to last forever. Then the reply came. "Friends, listeners, we heard Earth call. We answer now. Once the authorities became involved, everything changed." William was dragged from his quiet life and thrust into the center of the most important conversation in human history. World leaders demanded updates. Scientists swarmed around him like wasps. Military generals argued endlessly about threats and defenses. But the beings from Kepler would only communicate with one person: William. They trusted nobody else. So when the visitors suggested a meeting, it was William who had to guide them. The location was chosen carefully. A disused military airfield, far from any city, cold, empty, covered in rain and mist, the night of the rendezvous. The downpour was relentless. William stood beneath a large black umbrella while rain hammered against it in violent sheets. His boots slowly sank into the sodden turf. Around him, military trucks idled loudly, headlights cutting through the darkness. Scientists huddled around equipment. Government officials shouted into radios, crackling with interference. Then William's earpiece crackled. "We are here!" William raised the walkie-talkie slowly. "I can't see you. Where are you?" The voice answered immediately. "We are by the body of water." William frowned. He looked across the empty airfield. "There's no lake here," he said. "No river, nothing." Again the calm voice replied, "We are here, next to the water." Confusion spread quickly. Military men barked questions. Scientists argued over possible translation errors. Panic began creeping into the atmosphere. William clutched his umbrella tighter and trudged further onto the open field. His coat was soaked through completely now. Rain dripped from his chin. He stared upward into the black sky. His voice cracked with fear and wonder. "Where are you?" The answer came instantly. "Here." The signal suddenly grew louder, closer. William took another step. His boots splashed into a puddle. Then silence, complete silence. "Communications are down," a soldier shouted. "I repeat, communications are down." Static hissed briefly through the earpiece. Then nothing. No signal. No reply. Gone. A young technician ran toward William, pale-faced and shaking. "The readings," he stammered. "They've vanished. All of them." William stood motionless in the rain. Water streamed down his glasses. Slowly, he looked down at the puddle beneath his boot. Dark rainwater rippled gently outward. And then he understood. The beings from Kepler had arrived. They had traveled across light years to reach Earth, and they had been no larger than a dragonfly. Their landing craft, their civilization, their first contact with humanity, all beside the only body of water they could find. The puddle William had just stepped in. His size 9 boot had wiped out the first visitors from another world in a single, clumsy step.